When I bet, I like getting something back, even if I lose. That's why I bet with Fanatics Sportsbook. When I bet with them, I earn fan cash, win or lose, and I can flip fan cash into bonus bets or use it for new Knicks apparel at Fanatics.com. Download the Fanatics Sportsbook app and let the fan cash flow. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents call 800-327-5050. New York residents call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
What's good, family? Welcome to another edition of Casual Thursday. Hitting your airwaves on the Knicks Film School YouTube channel. I'm Jeff. That's Sean. You are amazing. We are tapping in as we do during this season when there is news to discuss around the Knicks. And boy, we got a lot to discuss because the search is over. And the Knicks have a new head coach, and it is Mike Brown. Sean, how you feeling, man?
Wait, who's our head coach?
Mike Brown.
Who?
Mike Brown.
Who?
Mike Brown.
There we go, Mike Brown. Welcome to New York, Mike Brown. How am I feeling? One, I'm feeling good. Two, I'm feeling cool. Shout out to everyone out there in the heat, because where I am, it is 86 degrees, and it is 12:39 in the afternoon. But you know, last time this week was 100, so whatever. I feel good. We have a new head coach. It took us all of 30 days, which apparently was a long national nightmare, depending on who you speak to, in the media and the fan base. And the biggest thing I'll say is, and I'm sure we'll dive into it, and you know, because there was a lot of like, you got to get better than Tibbs. It's like, no, we don't need better than Tibbs. We need not Tom Thibodeau, but not Tom Thibodeau in the sense of anybody will do. Because if that were the case, you know, there are names that are being thrown out there that would have been a head coach. That would have been in serious consideration for a head coach. But you got not Tom Thibodeau, but not Tom Thibodeau in a manner that that the front office believes, and I agree with them, that can help get the best out of the roster. Because I cannot say that the roster is not good enough until there is a true attempt to maximize the roster, which our friend Tom Thibodeau, in my humble opinion, did not.
I agree with you, man. And there's so many angles to go at with this whole talk. First, I got to talk about the search itself. The minute Mike Brown was announced, first by CP the franchise, let's be clear, 13 hours before it got on Sham's desk and everybody else's. CP had it first, so shout out to him. When we found out that it, for all intents and purposes, Mike Brown was going to be the head coach, we start to see reports and hear reports about how this was a thorough search, that the Knicks first requested permission to interview coaches already under contract. Then they had their top of the coaches or former head coaches who were available. Then they had the college ranks. This is what was originally reported. And this is when we heard that there wasn't a plan. How could there be a plan? This isn't a plan. You got to have the candidate that you are hiring already on deck. And that's not a plan. But now, Steph Bondy reported that Mike Brown was, while he may not have been the top choice, he was still in the top tier of the choices. So if we cannot get one of these coaches that we're identifying under contract, it's Mike Brown and then everybody else. and they performed their due diligence. They interviewed Micah Nori. They interviewed James Borrego. They even interviewed Don Staley, which once again, CP had that before everybody else. And we have to be, especially as independent creators, we have to big up the independent creators who are breaking news out here and performing the journalism. You don't let these national outlets vulture that, right? So we've had it here. They've had it as well. So give that respect. We heard that it was BS until it was confirmed, quote unquote, by other sources. Anyway, they went through their extensive search and they landed on Mike Brown, who was in their top tier of candidates. Now we're hearing the stories about how it was a thorough search. But 30 days ago, a lot of folks sat here, a lot of folks in these Instagram comments and YouTube comments and on social media, even in real life, were adamant that this wasn't a plan.
Adamant.
Not like questioning. Adamant that this wasn't a plan. And once again, I ask, how do y'all come to this conclusion when we have this reporting laid out for us about the process? And you know what, Sean? I'm going to shake the table for a second. A lot of people want to believe that this isn't a plan because they don't want to believe that they were the second, third, or fourth option when they were interviewing for a position.
Talk about it.
They want to believe they were the A option when they got that job or when they were offered a role. And the reality is, unless you know the hiring managers like that and y'all cool with them, or you know that one person at work that knows everything, like every work has a Woj.
Yes.
Every job has a Woj or a Shams that has the insider information. Unless you know for sure that you were the number one option, there's a good chance that you might not have been. Every organization, they have their list. This is our top candidate. If not them, then the next person, then the next person. It doesn't make you less qualified. You may not have been ideal given everything that they wanted, but you check off enough to be one of the top candidates that are going to be hired. And that's what it was with Mike Brown. So this is why guys like me, guys like Sean, and others were pushing back against the narrative about the lack of plan. Once again, I believe it was a lack of patience, and I believe it wasn't the plan that people wanted. Low-key, I believe any plan wouldn't have worked for people. But the fact that the Knicks took their time, that they had the audacity to interview coaches who already had roles, who are already employed, as if that never happened before in the history of the NBA. Udoka's getting an extension. Billy Donovan's getting an extension. Quinn Snyder damn near got a new team. Jason Kidd is about to get an extension before the season. All I'm telling y'all is look at the facts, look at what's reporting, and look at what is actually happening before you buy into these narratives and rile yourself up over a situation that isn't what it's being called. That's Knicks clicking.
And we'll get to Knicks clicking in a second. I think there are, as I've said on the timeline, a lot of people in the media want to gaslight you because to the point that you have made, they've had Nick slander in the talk for 4 years, and they've been begging, looking for a reason to get this slander off. And now they had a chance to do so. So the funny thing is, because now with this Mike Brown hire, and I like the hire, right? A lot of people are like, this is Tibbs 2.0. Why'd you get rid of him to keep Tibbs? Like, and it's like, and I think John summed it up very great, very perfectly in a tweet that he had where he was like, it's not Tom Thibodeau, but and also in today's newsletter, if you haven't read today's newsletter, check it out. But he talks about how, yes, he's like Tibbs here, but he's not like Tibbs there. He's like Tibbs here, and he's not like Tibbs there. And for the people who said that it seems as if like it's a lateral move, they said, and it's just like, why would you get rid of Tom? Like, why would you get rid of Tom Thibodeau? while I can acknowledge, and any sane, reasonable person can acknowledge the good that Tom Thibodeau did for his organization, if you took off your orange and blue colored glasses, or if you took off your I Love Tibbs glasses, this day was always coming. And I want to go to a clip from. I want to play this clip for you all. Here, let me find this right here. On the post game after OKC, that Tom Thibodeau is a box checker, and he is one of the best box checkers. And the fact that he reviews every situation, says, okay, in this situation, I'll do this. In this situation, I'll do that. In this situation, I'll do this. And he's right. No one is more prepared than Tom Thibodeau. However, John also said, and this is, if you know John, like this means a lot coming from him. He said, and I quote, "Sometimes you got to read the fucking room." And where Tom Thibodeau fails is that he does not read the fucking room. I'm going to read a tweet. This tweet is from Frank Barrett, aka Jeff, where other better coaches increase flexibility and see what works. Tibbs takes the opposite approach. He knows what works. There's a story that Tom Thibodeau loves winning. And he wants to win every game. And I push back on that because I say it's not that Tom Thibodeau wants to win every game. It's he wants to not lose every game, because that is why you decide to put RJ Barrett in for Emmanuel Quickly, who has 22 points on 10 shot attempts, because, and as he said in the post game, they wanted the size. That's someone who doesn't want to lose. Now, his rigidity, his principles, his system will establish a certain baseline level of competence. At some point, like, that shit is going to get you fired. That was December 29th, 2023. What makes you laugh will make you cry. All right? And that was the day or 2 days after that game in Oklahoma City where Quickly picked up that foul in SGA, and then Tibbs pulls him for RJ. They're going to lose the game. Ask him why he's on more size. At some point, I always tell people, I've said this for years. People don't rise to the occasion as much as they sink to their level of training. And at some point, it was inevitable that Tibbs would always just sink to his level of training when the you know what hits the fan. And when the you know what hits the fan, he kept doing the same thing until waiting for a different result. And then finally in game 100, it's like, let me start playing the guys that I told you weren't good enough all year. Okay, with his actions. All right. I say all that to say, the idea that the Knicks did not have a plan because they did not hire someone 48 hours is bullshit. What the Knicks knew was our goal is this, and we don't believe this guy is going to be good enough to get us there. Now, do we know that Mike Brown is going to be the person to get us there? We don't know, but guess what? There is nobody who I know will win the championship with this team, because nobody knows. No one knew Mark Daigneault was a championship head coach 3 years ago until he became one.
Right.
Nobody knew Frank Vogel was a championship coach until he became one. Nobody knew Mike Budenholzer would become a championship coach until he became one. This is why the process is just as important as the result. And what we're doing now is grading the process. And the process was, okay, we know this guy. We don't believe this gentleman is good enough to help us win the title. Whether we're right or wrong, that's another story. But we don't believe he's good enough. So what we're going to do is we are going to relieve him of his duties. It's going to cost us $30 million. The owner's fine with us paying the $30 million. And realizing that we, the Knicks, have the only head coaching vacancy in the league, let us take our time and explore all options until we do so. I saw someone in the chat was saying, like, while yes, teams have reached out for this, I'll go up to zigzag ziggler. This is hilarious. Yes, teams have reached out for existing coach. No teams ever reached out to 5 head coaches. That is a first. You know what else is also was a first? Signing players to $1 above the minimum in order to aggregate them in salaries for Mikal Bridges in the Mikal Bridges trade. Now, whether you believe we should have traded 5 picks for Mikal Bridges, that's a different discussion. But it can't always be, well, no one's ever done this before, so we shouldn't do it. I applaud the Knicks for thinking outside of the box. Like, instead of just following a paint by numbers, carbon copy of what everyone else has done. Because we are in uncharted waters. This franchise has been on uncharted water, has navigated uncharted waters since day one.
Right.
Starting with, like, they built a championship contender, a team that was 6 wins away from the title, and only 5 of their top 7 players they drafted, and both of them were drafted in the second round. Like, we've been doing this differently the entire time, and it has gotten us better and better and better and better and better. So let's give Mike Brown a chance. Because I knew, as I said on these airwaves, I knew next year with the current head coach, nothing was going to change. And if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten.
Yeah. You know what else was unprecedented? Shooting all them damn threes that the Warriors did. Remember when a multi-time NBA championship winning coach said, "How's that goink?"
Mm-hmm.
It's goink with a transformative change to the league where now 3-pointers are the premium shot. So like you said, Sean, just because it's unprecedented does not mean that it is unwise. And the act isn't unprecedented. It's just the volume. That's the issue that's throwing people off. It's like you asked 5 head coaches. Well, why not? Why not? Why is there a limit all of a sudden? Like, what are we actually doing here? That we're limiting them. And boy, some of them comments when it was reported that Dawn Staley was being considered. Y'all are ridiculous, man. But what I will say is you see a similarity in the type of coaches that they wanted. They wanted people who were culture establishers. They wanted people who had outside of the box thinking. In a lot of cases, like Dawn Staley, they wanted people who have transformed an organization and made them into a perennial contender. That's something that, and Dawn Staley, a former player. Also, there was a lot of criteria that was established with this coaching search. And I think another plug for John's newsletter, you read that, you will see with the analogy that he used, why it was important for the Knicks to move on. Sometimes the voice isn't as powerful as it once was. Every coach has a quality about them that's going to grate on people over time.
Mm-hmm.
The question is whether or not the ultimate result occurs. Yeah, he got close, but the things that he was rigid about directly cost them. It would be one thing if his rigidity was, oh, he's just super accountable in the way he talks to players. You can subjectively try to figure out whether or not that had an effect on their mentals and whatnot. Things like not expanding the rotation, not being a great in-game adjuster, waiting until the last possible minute, like a partner who has heard their boyfriend or their girlfriend tell them what they need to do for years, and then when their partner is ready to walk out the door, you all of a sudden have the capability to do everything.
Mm-hmm. Yo, that's a great analogy. That is a great analogy.
Everything. Now you're opening the doors, you're taking out the trash, you remember birthdays. You're spontaneous. Where was this when I politely asked? This is the Tom Thibodeau experience especially when it came to the playoffs. Yeah, sure, the results matter, and you got there. And I think a lot of folks get caught up in the results over the process.
Yes.
And when you don't receive the result that you want, you chalk it up and say, well, you gotta get on the players, which I agree to an extent. But, well, it was good enough for this. It was good enough for the first Eastern Conference Finals in 25 years, and now all of a sudden it's not. Why did they lose? Did the process have anything to do with why they lost? What is the percentage that we can attribute to the factors that caused them to be 2 games away from the finals and losing 6 games? Why is it that they were down 20? The ultimate example of this team winning in spite of themselves is the fact that they were down double digits for a majority of games in the playoffs and still made it to 2 games within the conference finals. The process was not all that, y'all. It wasn't. Transitioning to Mike Brown itself, my opinion of it, I'm not inspired. I'm not like hyped because I kind of know what I'm getting. I thought it would be more of a drastic change in coaches, but maybe they don't need a drastic change. They just needed a change.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of, from the reporting and the accounts and what I've seen, my analysis, I see Mike Brown as the final Pokemon evolution of Tibbs, where this version of Tibbs is the one that will empower the assistant coaches, make the in-game adjustments, will run a more modern NBA offense, will adapt quicker, and will cultivate that innovation within their team while still maintaining the core old school principles that make them successful. This is all a lot of folks wanted. This new CBA world, you have to be successful and hit on some of these rookies, some of these second rounders, some of these fringe rotation players. Someone has to be able to contribute, and you have to develop them. Otherwise, in a few years, you're going to have to remake your roster because of money. This is the reality that we're living in. Gone are the days of 8-man rotations in the regular season, man. That's gone. That's done with. Now you have to be able to utilize it more. And this is a coach that's been able to turn the Sacramento Kings. Remember, Sean and I have had this conversation for years about how the Knicks got the laughingstock franchise label, and they did a lot to earn it when Sacramento was right there. For the same amount of period of time, Sacramento was right there and was at times worse, but they didn't get the same smoke. And we all know why. He revitalized that franchise. He was a contributing factor the same way Tibbs was. And a lot of his journey, you could say, was him having to hold the bag for a lot of situations. In every stop where he's gotten let go. I remember, funniest thing is Dan Gilbert saying it was a mistake to fire him the first time, hired him back, and then fired him again after a year. It's like, damn, twice? Right? Like you go to his different stops and you see the reasons why he was fired. Shoot, if you think there was all of this controversy over Tibbs getting let go, when Mike Brown got let go, there was even more of an uproar. So there is a solid coach there, and I think it's reductive to say that he's Tibbs light. I saw Sean sent a tweet, and he said the most dangerous phrase in the English language is "I don't know." I would add to that the most terrifying question you can ask people who give hot takes is why. Once you force them to expand on their hot take, it crumbles. It absolutely crumbles. And with all of these takes, I think it's hilarious that this is the anniversary of all of them Jalen Brunson takes that was going on. I saw New York Basketball send that tweet from CBS Sports, who said that Brunson's free agency signing was a D+. They love them D pluses over there.
Oh God!
And mind you, I went to the reporter's Twitter to see if what he would say years later. Today, he's like basically talking. Yes, I know I made a mistake. Yes, I fumbled. Yes, I did this, because I'm sure people remind him.
Yeah.
This is just a reminder. It's big business to get off hot takes, especially against big market teams. Not to say that they're always wrong. Not to say they're always right. I'm just saying you got to look at this in totality before you formulate your opinion.
Yeah, listen. Shout out to Sam Quinn over at CBS Sports, who has he's been one of the few national media writers, national media members who've had a level-headed approach to this. Look, in terms of Mike Brown, because again, like to your point, like we don't want like Tibbs is in the past now, so like we don't need to beat a dead horse, right?
Nope.
In terms of what I'm looking forward to with Mike Brown, I'm just looking forward to evolution and learning and figuring things out. And imagine if I was just about to like bring up some old tip stuff, but I'm not going to. But it's clear that like Mike Brown clearly will be what's the word we heard so much? Collaborative, right? You need to have everyone in alignment. And alignment starts at the top. And that starts with the man who writes the checks. Which is why I always push back, like when people are pissing their pants about Dolan was involved in it. It's like he's the owner of the team. Like we are so, and I understand it. We've seen James Dolan do so much fuck shit in the past that we're just like, we just want him to literally just sign checks and not have any input on anything else, period. And guess what? That's not really how most competent franchises work. You think all Peter Holt does is in San Antonio is just sign checks? Like, do you think who's another model franchise? Like even OKC. Let's take OKC, which everyone is glazing, and rightfully so. They won a title, right? You think Clay Bennett has absolutely nothing to do with anything at all? Like, no. Like, you need alignment. You need alignment from your head coach. Excuse me, the owner, chief decision maker, president of basketball ops, vice president of basketball ops, general manager, whatever, to the head coach, and everywhere in between. So if the owner and the president of basketball operations are in alignment on something, and their goal is to bring in someone who's going to be lined with them, that's what we want. We like. The salary, there's no salary cap on what you can spend on coaches. There's no salary cap what you can spend on analytics. There's no salary cap what you can spend on trainers. So if the front office has data together and it says like, hey, we're seeing this, let's talk about it. I don't want my head coach to say, all right, I've seen this, but I don't care because this is what I believe. Because at that point is you better win. And it seems as if Mike Brown will be collaborative. Now, I've also heard reports about Mike Brown losing the locker room in Sacramento. Is that true? Because I remember it being reported that like De'Aaron Fox had issues with Mike Brown, and Mike Brown was like, go. And then it was reported that he didn't have issues with Mike Brown. It was after Mike Brown getting let go, he was like, all right, get me out of here. I'm going to say this. The same way how I would not hold anything against someone who worked for this franchise between the years of 2001 and 2017, 18. I am not going to hold Mike Brown not working out in Sacramento against Mike Brown. I'm sorry, because to your point, Sacramento is levels of dumpster fire that we have not seen. And when they were finally looked like they're getting it right, all you need to know about Sacramento is that they looked at what Chicago was doing with DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. It's like, hey, let's go do that, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing how he'll work with these guys. I'm looking forward to seeing if he'll put Jordan Clarkson and Gershon Yabusele in the best positions to succeed. And honestly, Jeff, I'd like to get your thoughts on the two free agent signings.
Let's go.
Yeah, but actually, before that, we do have one super chat. And looks like we got to kick Tibbs in the teeth one more time. It's from Jason M. Jason, thank you for your contribution. He says, front office has same issues with Tibbs we did. And Jason, that's a good point. And it honestly, for the people who supported Tibbs blindly every day of the week and twice on Sunday, for the people who told us that we were bugging for the issues that we had, it turns out, again, the front office had those same issues, because everything they've done in their search, what they put out in their statement, the way they put out the statement when they fired Tom Thibodeau, what we've heard through sources about what they liked about Mike Brown, tells you that, like, yeah, the same issues that we had, they had, and they had the cojones to pull the trigger, which I support. So thank you again, Jason. But back to that, Jeff, want to get your thoughts on the free agent signings.
Yeah, man. First, I'll go with Jordan Clarkson. I think this was the ideal scenario if he was going to be a Knick. Get bought out. You don't have to pay the age tax.
Yes.
Get him on a veteran minimum. And now you got somebody who can dribble, who can create their own shot, who can get into the lane, who can create for others. Like, yeah, I know he's hot and cold, but this is a dude who averaged more points by himself, I believe, than the entire Knicks bench at one point. So one of the key deficiencies on the Knicks offense was that they didn't have a scoring bench. Now, how much of that was due to the fact that the bench wasn't playing like that? How much is it due to the fact of the proficiency of the bench? You can divvy it up. The fact remains, they got better on the bench. They got somebody who can be interchangeable with the starting lineup. They play with different lineup changes, and he's on a team now with a coach who gets the most out of their six men. Brown with Malik Monk, now with Jordan Clarkson. I think the way that he's deployed, the same way how you just said, Sean, you're not holding players or people employed in certain organizations accountable during dark eras.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
I'm not going to hold a lot that Jordan Clarkson was doing on the Jazz against him, because we know that was a vibes situation. They were trying to tank. He was getting his numbers and staying ready for the next opportunity. I do think there was some notable regression, but I do think that he has an opportunity to bounce back with this squad. And I think it's something that we can use as far as bench scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Yabusele, you want to talk about inspired and hype?
Yes.
That's my anyone who knows me since that Olympics, I've been talking about Yabusele. I pulled up a tweet that I had from a minute ago where I was like, yeah, Sixers need to come up off of Yabusele, take these seconds and fuck off, right? Because I'm ready for Yabusele. Like I bought all of the Yabusele stock after the Olympics. I just saw the vision for who he was. I forgot who on the timeline said that he was almost like a 2025 version of Anthony Mason. And once I saw him, I said, wow, he is like Le Anthony Mason, because this is a dude who's 6'9", solid, almost like a bodybuilder type physique, like real strong, shoots threes. The way that he attacks closeouts specifically, and shout out to DJ Zulo, who was pointing that out in one of his mini film breakdowns. I saw it before, but focusing on it and actually watching it in practice, once again, is something that is going to be extremely vital off the bench and in these new roster, these new lineup constructions is what's going to be most beneficial. You have, in essence, a dude who has a similar game to Cat, with the outside shooting, the above the break shooting, attacking. He's like, somebody called him an analytic extremist, right? I call him, he's a spreadsheet savant, because he takes 87% of his shots are either at the rim or at three. Ain't no mid-range. Yabusele, I don't think Yabusele knows the French word for mid-range, bro. There is no mid-range with him. But I think he is somebody who is highly effective. Philly hated that they lost him. He was one of the lone bright spots for that team last season. You get him on the taxpayer mid-level exception with the player option. So now you're getting contract year Yabusele eventually. And I think he's somebody who helps you with your lineup diversity, helps you to you finally utilize your best and give bench and give Cat rest, play alongside Cat as a power forward, some lineups as center. I think you get a lot of versatility. You get expanded 3-point shooting, and you get another dude who is a dog, who is tenacious, who gives this team some edge. Clarkson too. Like, I know the Filipinos in New York are going crazy right now. Like we would talk about the Dominicans when Cat got here, bro. This is a world city, so I love it when folks who represent other cultures come play for the squad. It's going to be a beautiful thing to see. But Clarkson, he got an edge on him too. So I think one of the things that we thought this team was missing was that edge, where if you cross a line, you are going to be placed on the other side of that line expeditiously. You got Yabusele, you got Clarkson. I love that for the team. I really love the Yabusele sign. I didn't think we had Yabusele money.
Me neither.
And he could have got more. Think about this. It came down to playing with Nikola Jokic or the Knicks, and he chose the Knicks. Narrative versus reality, y'all. Narrative versus reality. He would have had pretty much the same role with both squads.
Yeah. Also, I do think, because I think the reporting was that the Sixers wanted him to wait a few days because they wanted to figure out the Quentin Grimes stuff. And I think for someone like him who flamed out in Boston, had to play overseas for almost a half a decade, like, he wasn't gonna mess around with his money and then let them watch the market dry up because he was waiting. So he had bird in the hand was worth two in the bush. So he took the money. And to your point, man, about the a team that provides some bark, some bite, some attitude, man. Listen, I say this all the time. If you ask me what was the key moment of the 2024-25 season, I wouldn't say it was, game one against the Pacers. By the way, I was telling this to Mensa yesterday and Allie as we were playing practicing basketball for Knicks Twitter Day. If that ball, don't stop it. If that ball that Haliburton shot at the end of regulation game one is 1 inch to the left or to the right, Haliburton probably has a working Achilles. And the entire landscape of the NBA is different. Because guess what? Like, if that ball goes to the left or the right, it's very possible that Damian Lillard is still a Milwaukee Buck. Like, but I digress. The watershed moment of this past season for me was not during the Pacers series, or during the Bucks series, the Boston series. It wasn't during the Detroit series. It wasn't when they beat the crap out of the Nuggets or the Rockets. It wasn't them being up at the half against the OKC and OKC. It is the NBA Cup quarterfinal.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you've liked and disliked about this team, you can see in the NBA Cup quarterfinal against the Hawks. It was the best of the best, the worst of the worst, and everything in between. And when you talk about this team not having bark, this team not having bite, this team not really trying to push back. Although I think there are guys that will. I think there are guys on the team that have that. Watching how Atlanta fought back and the way the Knicks did not respond, down to the dice roll, and them doing nothing about it. And we don't. If you want to do something about it, we got to win. It's like,
man,
yes, in theory, you're right. If you don't want them to do that, Don't do like you win the game. But again, I say this all the time. If that were in Golden State, Trae Young wouldn't have tried it. If that were Detroit, Trae Young wouldn't have tried it. You know? So I am curious to see. I am looking forward to seeing how this team responds. And I'm not saying you have to get in fights with teams or you got to get into scruffs or you got to like be like Devo, end up in the stands, lock it up with somebody. But be ready to, what was the phrase that we used all the time last year? Let go of the rope. Like, I'm curious to see how often this team lets go of the rope. Because it's going to happen because over 82 games in 6 months, there are going to be days where they just don't have it, and they're just like, we'll just live to fight another day. But I'm curious to see how much that will happen, and if those days are reduced, that will say a lot about the players they brought in, and the mindset of the players, and the mindset of the new head coach.
It will. It definitely will. I think those additions are good, man. It looks like they're gonna round out their roster with expiring with a rookie extension. Diawara and James Nnaji. Yeah. They're playing for a spot. This is straight Love Island Summer League right now. They are playing for a spot on Manhattan Island. They're playing for a spot on Manhattan Island right now. Probably Kevin McCullough Jr., maybe another veteran for the minimum. Here's a question for you.
Yes.
I don't think they can do it salary cap wise. And I don't know if he's going to wait. What do you think about Dame? If Dame were to take the minimum, let's say he sits out for the year and he's looking for a team. What do you think of Dame for the minimum on the Knicks? Whether they get him in this season, and I'm saying that they cannot because of the salary cap, like they literally cannot, and filled 14 players. But maybe next season, what would you think about that?
I would say so. I believe the two spots. One is a rookie. One is a vet minimum, and one is a rookie exception.
Yeah, right? He would have to get, because he's 10 plus years of service. He would get like 3.6 mil for the vet min.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's why I said it's not realistic.
Okay.
Unless Brock Aller does some
Brock Aller
devil magic.
Like, okay, on paper, a guy who last season averaged damn near 25 points a game, 25. I'm seeing 25, 4, and 7 in 58 games. Like on paper, and shot 38% from 3. On paper, it's like cool. The only thing is, one of the legacies of the 2024 Knicks is that you don't want to waste roster spots on guys that aren't going to can't play or aren't going to play, right? So you'd be using a roster spot. Now, granted, like basically that will be the 15th roster spot, and your 15th guy isn't going to play very much. So basically, be using a roster spot for him to come in and rehab
for this year, yeah.
For this year, and then next year, and then next year he's probably not going to be on the team. But what is it? If that engenders some goodwill with him and with other players and everything everything like that, again, it's clear like your 15th spot is a guy who's not going to play. I mean, if it wasn't Damian Lillard, if it was anyone else, we'd be like, it's it's cool. Like Damian Lillard wants to in 2026, 27. Damian Lillard wants to play and wants to start probably, right? If there were a way where Damian Lillard was like, you know what, my days of being a starter are over, I have no problem being a backup point guard, then sure. But I don't think that's going to happen. So in theory, I'd be for it, but in practice, I don't think it would make sense for us.
I'd be with it if he wasn't trying to start. And I cannot believe I'm saying that about Dame. That's so nuts. Like, either we're getting older, the league is just, time is just, what? But I think that's a next year question, first off.
Yes.
Feasibility-wise, that's a next year question. But I do think if he was willing to come off the bench and, you get your time, But if it was like all-star game rules, like you coming off the bench, you're gonna get your time. If we ride the hot hand, do whatever. Man, even a 75% Dame off the bench still can hit your long range threes, still can like get to the rim with even like mark down a little success, but still the success. I think it would be really interesting. I think it would be really interesting.
Now, I will say this. It seems as if the Knicks, and this is what I read from stuff that Jeremy has tweeted, that like, so Mark Steiner reported on July 1, the Knicks have been telling prospective free agents that they are near a resolution to their coaching search. And Jeremy retweeted, and he's basically said, like, why would you be telling free agents if you can't sign anybody? Why would you be telling free agents anything? Because you can't sign them. So which means a trade may be on the horizon, a consolidation trade may be on the horizon, and at that point you can entertain a Damian Lillard on the Knicks. But I also think Damian Lillard, if it's not Miami, it's somewhere west of the Mississippi River, if not west of the Rocky Mountains. Like I've heard that he was, he really didn't. And by the way, two things I want to say. One, people yelling about, okay, first of all, one, Damian Lillard getting waived and stretched was his contract getting waived and stretched was insane. Like insane. I sat there, I said, wait a minute, that's $110 million. Like that's $22 million a year until the next World Cup. And not the one in the United States in 2026, the one in Europe in 2030, right? That is, who said it? I think it was might have been, it was, I forget what podcast I was listening to. It was like, that's basically a Mikal Bridges level player that you cannot sign for 5 years. Number one. Yeah. Number two, the whole thing about like, it's loyalty. I don't hear about loyalty. This is messed up, whatever. And it's like, how could they do this? I'm like, is it ideal? I don't think Damian Lillard wanted to see his contract waived and stretched, but at the same time, this is the system working. This is like, oh, yes, in order for us to like get rid of you, we literally have to pay you every single cent. So like financially and in terms of his flexibility, his options, Damian Lillard could not be in a better position.
Oh,
Third, Third, what this is why when you see players pull all the shenanigans they pull to get traded to where they want to go to, this is why. Because if Damian Lillard had made the mess he needed to make 2 summers ago, if he had went full Jimmy Butler, if he had went full James Harden, he would be where he wanted to be. And I mean, we could say fully healthy, obviously injuries can happen anytime, whatever, but like he would be where he wanted to be. This is why players make a mess when they want to go somewhere, because you would rather dictate your own terms than have it dictated to by front office. Now, again, in like all things considered, Dame has more control over his situation. Well, he has all the control because he literally can sign wherever he wants. But this is why players make a mess. This is why, honestly, like I think Giannis does a very good job of making a mess, but making a mess behind the scenes, which is why we are where we are. But this is why.
Yeah, I definitely get it. There's a lot of intriguing scenarios, and the wildest part is that might be the least intriguing scenario in 26, 27. Yes. Just the way everything happens, man. The NBA free agency is the most unpredictable thing. Things happen that just make at least one WTF move off season. So yeah, man. No, do we have any questions? Do we have anything else? Questions from the chat? Anything else you wanted to talk about with Mike Brown or anything going on with the Knicks, Sean?
One thing I want to say, I heard that what's this dude's name? Our good friend Stephen A. Smith said the hire lacked sizzle. For those who are listening on podcast, Jeff just rolled his eyes in a manner that made me proud. You know what hire had sizzle? David Fizdale. You know what hire had fizzle? Phil Jackson. Like, you know what hire had fizzle? Mike D'Antoni. Like, I'm tired of hires and decisions that quote unquote get the fans excited. Because fan excitement hasn't got me a thing. Like we spill out onto 7th Avenue after playoff wins. Like, we can get excited all on our own. Right? Honestly, like, we should probably start like the Knicks for Clicks Hall of Fame. And if and when we do, Stephen A. Smith is the initial entry into that. But like, sizzle and excitement only get you so far. It's time to win. Again, Mark Daigneault didn't provide a sizzle when he was hired. I guarantee you.
No.
When Rick Carlisle went back to Indiana, I was like, all right, that's cute. Oh, he's going back home, whatever, yada, yada, yada. Like, it is time to be functional. It is time to yield results. It is time to yield greatness and success. It's time to raise the Larry O'Brien trophy. It is time. It is time. And guess what? The Knicks, through all the quote-unquote dysfunction, were 6 wins away from doing so. Now, I'm on record as saying, and I told you this at Fanatics Fest, if the Knicks had beat the Pacers, OKC would have packed us up in 5. Because you can't say, oh, well, the Pacers took them to Game 7. What would we have done? We don't play like the Pacers, to borrow a statement that Jeff J said to me on Fanatics Fest. We don't play like the Pacers. Like, the Pacers want to put you in a blender. We want to put you in a slow roaster. It's different. So I'm happy where we are, looking from a 30,000 foot view, because I know we have the ability to take the next step. And listen, for all of the, watch out for the Hawks, watch out for the Pistons, watch out for the Magic talk. Guess what? It is us and Cleveland at the top of the conference to figure that out. And I am not worried about anyone else. Period. End of story.
At all. They're going to have to show me at this point. Dude.
Absolutely.
So they better worry about their sports books and not more than they worry about their teams right about now. Listen, it's going to be a fascinating Eastern Conference race. It's probably, no lie, it's probably the most open I've ever experienced as a fan. Like, that's cognizant of what's going on and not just watching casually. I don't remember a time where the East was this wide open. Is it
wide open?
In theory. In theory. Because it's wide open depending on how serious you take the Cavs and the Knicks as the top 2. That's because, to me, we had a different conversation before all of free agency happened. Before Miles Turner got traded, I thought Indy had a great shot of keeping a top 4 spot. Now, I don't know. Everything that's happened in Detroit, they've made some good changes. They flip out Schroeder and Beasley for Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson. It just feels like alternate reality Heat. And I'm like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. That doesn't really strike fear. They are getting Jaden Ivey back. They are getting Beef Stew back healthy. Cool. It isn't the same amount. They lost their identity with Timmy and Beasley and Schroeder. They kind of lost that scrappy identity. Yeah, they'll still have Isaiah Stewart, but the guys that were fueling that chip on the shoulder, nobody thinks we can do anything, we're going to show them we got something to prove. I don't know how many of those guys they got on their team now.
Duncan Robinson doesn't engender those.
Listen, Duncan Robinson is Steve Novak with a tan right now. That's what I think right now.
They gave him $48 million in this economy.
Listen, remember Steve Novak, awesome Nick, until they decided we're gonna put one of our best defenders on you, and you ain't gonna get off the 3-point line. I mean, we'll see. But I think you got the Cavs up there, you got the Knicks up there. You gotta, I think you gotta put the Magic up there. I could not believe how the Hawks improved their odds. They had a fantastic offseason, but now they can fall into, if they do not make top 6 next year, it's dialogue time. It's big dialogue time if they do not make top 6. I'm not even saying top 4. You don't make a guaranteed playoff spot and there wasn't a major injury. It's big dialogue time in the Trae Young verse.
Dog. If
it's
they don't
big
dog,
dialogue time.
Listen, I have someone who's been higher on the Hawks the last 2 years more than most, because I think Quinn Snyder is a very good coach. They have talent. Like, whatever you want to say about Trae Young and his theatrics and his obsession with tweet about New York, like the kid, like he clearly is like an all-star level player. Like, this is the, like, if they don't, like you said, if they don't get top 6 this year, and listen, Kristaps, listen, the Celtics, the low-key people think that the Celtics didn't really need Kristaps to win the title because he was gone for most of the run. If they don't finish top 6 this year, we are going to have a conversation. And I think the Atlanta Hawks have the conversation of like, I don't know, like, what are we doing here? But
right. Whatever. And Dish Dash left a comment and said that the East hasn't been this wide open since MJ left for baseball. I agree with that. That's probably the most wide open just because MJ was gone. So it was like, damn, anybody can get a shot. But I think even then you were thinking Bulls, Knicks, Pacers. I think that's really what it was. Like and back then there was also like a defined top of the card and bottom of the card. Like it wasn't as likely that a lower seed was going to beat a higher seed.
Yes.
Put it to you like that. Not in that time. It wasn't as likely. But I do agree. Like that's probably one of the last times. Maybe the year the Cavs went to the finals. Well, you thought it was going to be Detroit.
Yeah.
But maybe. But yeah, I definitely get that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
That's all I got, sir.
All right. Well, Mike Brown is your head coach.
Who?
And the national night. Mike Brown. 281-334-8004. But yeah, he's the head coach. And we move on to summer league, on to training camp, on to the regular season. And now, unfortunately for a lot of folks, now you got to kind of talk about basketball and not all the other stuff. So that does it. For Casual Thursday, I'm Jeff. That is Sean with a W. You are amazing. Thank you so much for tapping in, chat. Thank you so much for being live as always. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get the numbers up. Share this link with anybody you think loves Knicks basketball or the NBA in general. We got a bunch of offerings for you, including Patreon, where you could get more in-depth analysis, including the Knicks Film School newsletter written by the super scribe John Macri. Every day he got something going during the season and updated often during the off season. So definitely check it out. A lot of valuable insights there as well. Sean, where can they find you on social?
You can find me on social at Sean with a W _ on the app formerly known as Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, there have been calls for the next edition of Study Hall. If it doesn't happen tonight, and I can't promise that, it sure as shit ain't happening tomorrow on the 4th of July. Or on Saturday, because we will be at Knicks Twitter Day. So it'll probably be Sunday. I know the Study Hall crew has their takes that they want to share, their thoughts about, the draft and free agency and the head coach hire. So probably look out for that probably on Sunday.
Yes, sir. Jeff J says all social media, including on YouTube. And if you're in the New York area, you haven't got your tickets, come through the Knicks Twitter Day. TKFS will be in the building. Shout out to my guy Sean, I Hate Sean on Twitter, bringing this event, getting all areas of Knicks Twitter together to hoop and to fellowship. So it's going to be a dope time. It's going to be a really dope time. We are out of here. Thank you so much for locking in with us. You already know the vibes. Go Knicks. And have a good 4th.